Danny, I'm sure you're set.
Oh, yes, I am, Kule. You don't know how excited I am
Absolutely.
to get cracking with
Yeah, I
this.
know, Danny.
I'm going to say a very big welcome to everyone. It's good to have you here, and let's do this.
Absolutely, Danny. That's really good. Well, I'm also set as Danny is. So let's just get right to business. Um, Now, as we always do, we want to encourage a few habits through this platform. So, what are you grateful for today? What is that item of gratitude on your mind or in your heart today? You may want to share with us. If so, go ahead and put it on the chat facility. But if not, you can just scribble it down on your writing pad, and let me say that you will need your writing pad today because we're going to really go through this in a dash. So, what are you grateful for today? The gift of life, um, your family, and other things. So, what are you grateful for? And the second thing will be, what is your intention for being on this broadcast today? I know that as a part of many other reasons, you are here to be with other leaders, to be in a safe environment where you can grow just like we do grow. So, for your intentions and for your gratitude, we say a warm welcome to you. Now, we're going to go right into the first law. And the very first law, or out of the 21 laws, is the law titled the law of the lead. The law of the lead, which says that I'll just go through the screen so that you can follow with me. The law of the lead says that leadership ability determines a person's level of effectiveness. In other words, the extent to which you grow in your leadership ability is the extent to which you become effective. Now, so this already indicates something that's very important, which is that we have an obligation to continue to raise our leadership lead so that the organizations that we represent can also benefit from that growth. Now, when I say organization, that may be your family, that may be your workplace, it might be something that you do in the society. It might even be that you are in government. Whatever the case, just remember this, that your leadership ability determines your level of effectiveness. Now, if that is the case, then we know that uh, it's really important for leaders to invest in their growth. Now, you can raise your leadership lead in a few ways. One of them is to discover your gift, or say, discover your purpose and find your leadership gift and be intent on serving it. So, as you discover your gift and you serve it and make a commitment to constantly and continually refine it, then you are well on your way to raising your lead. The second thing is to evaluate your experiences. So, every one of us have been through a few things in life. You have some experiences, some of them are very good, some of them are not so good. But I can tell you that experience is not the best teacher. To be very clear, the best teacher is actually evaluated experience. When you go over that experience that you had recently and consider what was done well and what could be done better, then you will be finding ways to, number one, repeat the experience in a better way, and number two, not to make the same mistakes again. Now, the third thing to consider is to invest in your leadership education. You can do this in a few ways. You can consider mentoring, which is to actually find a mentor. One thing that I know by experience is that a mentor can save you years of trial and errors and pain. a mentor can shorten your journey to your leadership growth. The other leadership education to consider is coaching. Now, coaching is different from mentoring. In mentoring, the mentor is the one asking you question, is the one sharing his experiences with you. You are the one asking him questions to draw out the experiences and the wisdom of your mentor. But in the art of coaching, the role is reversed. Your coach is the one drawing out the abilities that you have inside. So remember that scripture that says that counsel in the heart of a man is as deep waters, and a man of understanding will draw it out. So that is one definite way. I mean, that's one other way to invest in your leadership education. The third one that I will mention tonight is also to invest in mastermind. Mastermind refers to identifying people that you have a chemistry with, people that come alongside you to grow together. So those are three things I want to recommend in terms of investing in your leadership growth or in your leadership education. Now, just remember this, that what you are doing to improve your leadership will eventually transpire and have an effect on your community. Personal growth will always have an effect on public service. So consider that the number one law says that leadership ability determines a person's level of effectiveness. I'm just going to dive straight into the second law, and that says that it's the law of influence. The second law is the law of influence, and that says that the true measure of leadership is influence, nothing more, nothing less. Now, the question you may want to ask me is that what kind of influence are we talking about? If leadership is influence and nothing more, nothing less, then what kind of influence are we really talking about? Now, there are people who lead by coercion, through manipulation, through mean attitudes. But there is also the other side of the coin where you actually lead through inspiration. So the quality of leadership, of your leadership and my leadership, is dependent on the mode and mechanism of influence. Whether you choose manipulation, coercion, or you choose inspiration. But I can say this very quickly, that the best form of leadership influence is inspiration. When you lead by inspiration, people choose to submit their will to you. They choose to submit their authority to you, and they choose to follow you. Now, of course, we know that the converse of that is that people who lead by any other means except by inspiration have to force people, have to bend people's will. They have to coerce people. And the moment you use coercion or manipulation, you have already cancelled your leadership. Now, the other thing to note here is that management is not leadership. But of course, a leader that will be effective must be able to manage. If you're not able to manage, you will not be effective. So that's one thing to know, that management is not leadership, but a leader must be able to manage situation and resources. Now, what's the difference? A manager focuses on doing things right. Of course, the more you do things right, that leads to efficiency. But a leader focuses on doing the right thing. A leader is one person that will go on top of the hill or on top of a tree and survey the whole area and say, no, we are in the wrong field. Let's get out of here. In other words, a leader actually determines direction, determines the journey that everyone goes on. So the first law is the law of the lead. The second law is the law of influence. Now, I'm going to go quickly to the third law that I'll be discussing before I turn the mic to Tenny. And that law is the law of process. Now, when I was speaking the other time about the law of the lead, it is apparent that if you are to raise your leadership lead, you must be willing to submit to the law of process, because leadership is developed, or leadership develops daily, not in a day. Leadership requires process, requires time and obedience, observance of laws that make one effective as a leader. Now, yeah, you and I know that when it comes to growing personally, it is not the occasional deposit that we make that help us to grow. You can make huge deposit every once in a while. Now, that really doesn't help us to grow effectively. What really helps is to make little deposit constantly every time, and that really talks about the law of process. Without a willingness to submit to the law of process, leadership will be short-circuited, and the leader will lose his ability to influence. Don't forget, leadership is influence. But if the leader is not willing to submit to the law of process, then leadership will be short-circuited. So, to talk about following the law of process to lift your lead, I want to ask a few questions. The first one is, what are you doing currently to develop your leadership capacity? That's number one. The second thing would be, what books or what resources are you investing in to help you grow? What seminars, what events are you enrolling in? Of course, I can tell that by being on the executive network, you are definitely investing in your leadership. But this is just one out of many. And then, what sacrifices are you willing to make today in order to reach your goal? I will wrap it up in this way, that the secret of our success is found in our daily routine. So that is the law of process, and I will turn over the mic to Tenny to take us a bit further. Tenny.
All right. Hi, everyone. I'm going to move very swiftly to the fourth law, which is the law of navigation. And the law of navigation simply says that anyone can steer a ship, but it takes a leader to chart the course. Obviously, if you've not really gone on a ship before, you probably would have seen it in movies or in pictures or in documentaries. And you'd agree with me that to steer the rudder of the ship, you probably even need one finger, just staying there and just doing like that, You can steer the ship. As massive as that vessel is, it can turn either direction based on your finger of steering. But it takes a leader to actually know where we're going. It takes a leader to be able to say, okay, we're moving from point A to point B. And how do we get from point A to point B? And I'm gonna, excuse me, I'm going to say this very quickly, that the test of being a captain of a ship is actually in your ability to chart the course with less friction, with less challenges, with less problems. That's what determines, that's the hallmark of being a great captain of a ship. And of course, your ability to be able to do that comes from the fact that you are a leader that knows the way. You've gone through that route several times, so you know exactly where the turbulent winds are. You know exactly the part in your route where you need to go pretty quickly. You know the parts where you need to go slowly. Why? Because you know the way. One, which I'm going to say, is a leader that navigates also shows the way. Not only do you know it, you show others how to go that way. And of course, the third part is, not only do you know the way, not only do you show the way as a leader, you also go the way. So you're not standing and saying, yeah, just, go there, and maybe you're on the phone to them and they're on the cruise boat and they are in the middle of the ocean and you are just there in your room, at home on the ground, and you're saying, yeah, just turn around. You're not there. You're not going the way with them. So they might not really be able to relate with what you're saying. But the truth about it is, to navigate for others as a leader, you must know the way, you must show the way, and you must also go the way. I've got 3 things I'm going to say very quickly about the law of navigation before we move on to the next law. That is, navigation requires vision. You have to be a man with a vision. You have to have something you're aiming at. It's important, because then and only then will you know what you're aiming at, and then you can show people what you're aiming at, and of course you go the way with them onto actualizing that aim or actualizing that vision. The second thing I'm going to say is, navigation requires understanding of the future. Yeah, I've got my plans, I've got my objectives clearly laid out, but what exactly is the future of these plans that I've laid out? If you remember at the beginning of the broadcast, Kule said that one of the 2 things that he would lay out before every meeting is, you ask yourself the question, what do I want to gain out of this session? Intentionally, what am I looking to achieve? That is understanding of your vision. That is understanding of your future. Because it is important you have an idea of where you want to find yourself. Because if you don't, when you get there, you might not know you have actually arrived. If you're looking for something and it's already in you, it doesn't matter how many hours or days or months you spend looking outside you, you're not going to find it. Why? Because it's in you. So looking for what's in you outside is fruitless. You're not going to find it. Why? Because it's in you. So you need to know what you want. You need to have a picture of your future. And of course, the last part before we move on to the next law is, navigation requires accurate interpretation of the past. And I'll just borrow from what Kunle said also, of evaluated experience. That's a past. You've had an experience, so have you evaluated it? That's what it means to accurately interpret your experience. Evaluate it. And I love it when Kunle said that would help you not to make the same mistake again. Haven't you seen a lot of people? Haven't you heard of a lot of people? Once bitten, twice shy, they would say, but they keep going back to the same thing over and over again. Some people call it the law of madness, doing the same thing again and again and expecting a different result. I'll leave you with that, with the law of navigation. And very quickly, I'll move to the next law, which is the law of addition. I'm going to be very brief here, but it just simply says that leaders add value by serving others. So you add value by serving others. The bottom line in leadership isn't how far we advance ourselves, but how far we advance others. My mentor, John Maxwell, would say that when you get to the top of the leadership ladder and you are alone, something is wrong. He said, it's lonely. He said, when it's lonely up there, it's a miserable life. But when you get to the top with a lot of other people around you at the top, you can have a party, brothers and sisters. You can enjoy, you can collaborate on the next level. You can collaborate and plan for the next future. You can create a synergy for the next level that you want to go. And it's simply by obeying the law of addition. find ways to add value to other people. Because when you do, not only will you increase your influence around them, you will be adding a lot more to them. And of course, they'll forever be grateful for that. I could remember the few people that have added value to my life. I cannot forget them. I cannot forget them. Some of them, it's been 25 years now. I still remember them like that. There were significant values that they added to my life. And I'm still relevant because I learned those things back then. And those people are still relevant in my life today because they taught me. I've not even seen some of them for over 2 decades. But because they taught me back then and I learned it, I still remember that I still take them with me, you know, everywhere I am. So then, brothers and sisters, friends, think of how you could add value to other people. Because the bottom line in leadership is not how far we advance ourselves, but how far we advance others. And that will move me very swiftly to the last law I'll be talking about in this segment, which is the law of solid ground. Trust is the foundation of leadership. End of story. If people don't trust you, you cannot lead them. If people are following you and they don't trust you, believe me, guys, they want something. And once they get it from you, they're going to desert you. They're going to leave you. So you need to find out, who am I? Who am I? Who really am I? Charisma can get you through the door, but it's your character that will keep you inside the door. I tell people in the part of the country where I live, which is in the UK, you can get in to a place by just talking your way through an interview, especially in a job. You talk and then but the thing that would keep you in the door is, what do you have to offer? Who really are you when you are now in? And of course, the truth about who we really are is, it doesn't matter how you try to camouflage, your true nature would come out at some point. You can't really camouflage for too long. And that's what leadership and the law of solid ground is. People can really tell if you're not trustworthy. Why? Because they're watching you. And if you're not a trustworthy person, there will be times that you would sleep. It's okay to sleep, but it's just not okay to put up a front and paint the picture that, yeah, I'm this and that, where you really are not. So let's try and be who we really are. Let people know if you're a work in progress, it's fine. At least you're a work in progress. So people would only follow someone that they trust. And of course, if you're going to be a leader of people, then you need to be trustworthy. I'll push this back over to Kule. Very
thanks, Tony.
Thanks.
Thank you very much. I'm sure you can still hear me.
Yes, we can.
Okay, thank you. Tony, that was really good. I'm just going to continue from where you stopped, and I'm going to go over to the next law, which is the law of respect. Now, the law of respect says that people naturally follow leaders stronger than themselves. Now, the fact is this, that when it comes to respect, we can't demand respect. We cannot demand respect. Respect has to be earned. I know of some cultures that respect seems to be something that is demanded. Just because you are older, just because you have a bigger title, just because you are maybe ruling and the like, then you demand respect. But the fact is this, that respect cannot be demanded. It can only be earned. And in very simple terms, when it comes to respect, if we want respect, the only thing to do is to give it. Because respect actually follows the law of seed time and harvest. You want it, give it. Then you have it back. Now, how can we then develop respect with people?
That follows on from, if you want it, give it. First, respect others. And in respecting others, you have to understand their value. The value of each human is predetermined. Humanity has not been given the privilege to determine the value of another human. So their value is given by God. So all we need to do is just to recognize that value, that every human being is the image of God wherever they are in life. And of course, the third thing is to build others up. If we are constantly in the business of building other people up, then naturally respect comes to us. And as a matter of fact, the leadership work is a work of building other people. It's a work of adding value to other people. All right. And lastly, before I move to the next law, we should make it a priority to seek to help people in the areas of their needs, their hopes, their aspirations, and their desires. We should be looking to put others first. The reason is very simple. When it comes to leadership work, the leader must know that leaders eat last. Okay, remember that passage in scripture that says, "Woe to the land when the rulers eat in the morning, and when the land is ruled by children." So let's keep that in mind as we move to the next law. The next law is the law of intuition. The law of intuition. Now, this is one of the tricky laws to really teach, but I will give it a very good go. The law of intuition says that leaders evaluate everything with a leadership bias. Now, most of what happens in leadership are intangible things. They have to do with things such as momentum. They have to do with things like morale. They have to do with things such as discernment, being able to read an environment, being able to read in between the lines. Now, this is a major work of leaders. Now, these attributes come to some people naturally, whereas some people need to work on them, and some people, well, they will really need to work hard to really develop or to enhance those attributes. But the thing to say here is that everyone has intuition. No matter what our gifts are, we all have intuition, the ability to be intuitive. Some people will say the word gut feel. Now, we all have it, but the key is to learn to develop it so we can trust it, so that we can actually become more accurate at reading the environment. Some people will get into a place and they can just sense discord. They can just sense hatred in that place. Some people will get there and they can sense that, wow, this is the place to be. So most of leadership work actually has to do with reading in between the lines, the ability to discern the environment, the ability to intuitively understand what is going on. And that's because if you look at it, not every decision can be made based on data. There are some decisions that it will have to take implicit attributes, implicit knowledge to make such decisions. Now, when you are in that mode, it can be said that you are in the zone, you are just in your element. Now, of course, when it comes to the law of intuition, this is what really happens in the art of coaching. When you are coaching someone, you are really listening for the voice behind the words. You are listening for what is unsaid. And the way to do this is first and foremost to develop your personal awareness. Now, when you are coaching someone, it must be a priority to be present with that person. You see, we can be talking and I'm far away, but you cannot coach effectively if you are not present. When I say being present, I don't mean being physically present. I mean you are entirely focused on the person you are coaching with. And the second thing, of course, is to listen with intent without prejudice. Now, this is one of the most difficult things to do because we want to quickly share our opinions, but we need to develop the ability to resist the urge to speak, to withhold our comments until the right time. And of course, asking questions, being curious, just being able to sense environment. These are intangible things. They are not the things you will see in the big books to say, organize people, manage people. No, these are intangible elements of leadership. And that's the law of intuition. I'll move quickly to the next law, which is the law of magnetism. I love this one because it's something that reaches deep inside. The law of magnetism says that who you are is who you attract. I remember what my dad said to me when I was in the grammar school. I think they called it jargon in those days. They said, ornithological specimen of identical plumage conglomerate in the closest proximity. Well, that sounds exactly like jargon because all it means is that birds of the same feather flock together. Who you are is who you attract. Now, most of the time, especially for people who are managers or who are directing in our profession, we tend to write the profile of who we want in our team. But can I say this, that who you get is not necessarily who you want, it is who you are that you get. This is also especially true in marital affairs. We, most of the time, will get someone that exactly is as we are, not who we want. And that's logical because it is who we are that also shapes our perspectives, and who we are really is heard long and louder than what we say. So to attract who you want, naturally, the task is to really improve ourselves. So if you want to get who you really want, then improve yourself, because then you will be increasing your odds of getting who you really are. As you improve yourself, then you attract people of the same elements, of the same dispositions. Now, the one thing that people say is that, look, this is how I'm made. This is how God made me. You can't change me. Well, I say that is really settling for the base nature. The willingness to improve is really the core ingredient of personal growth, of personal leadership growth. So don't settle on your base nature. And can I also say that it should be a priority to look at our vision, our purpose, our vision, and our mission. As you write in very concrete terms what your mission statement is, your vision statement is, your purpose statement is, then you actually become authentic. And as you decide to live by what you have as your vision for life, then you begin to attract people with the same values, with the same attributes. So we did a series or a particular session a while ago on writing your vision statement. You may want to review that material to be of help. Now, let me round up in this particular segment to say that our objective should be to look for people with the same values but different thinking pattern, or put in a different way, people with the same beliefs but different perspectives. Same beliefs, different perspectives, because then they will come and be complementary in what we do. Right, that is the law of magnetism, and I should turn over to Tenny to also continue. Tenny, please.
All right, thanks a lot, Khalid. That's awesome, I would say. I'm going to move on very swiftly to the next law, which is the law of connection. and I love this law so much. What it simply says is leaders touch a heart before they ask for a hand. And how true that is, because people need to know that you genuinely care for them before they can commit themselves to you. It's important that you understand who you're committing yourself to, which is why all of these laws, they all kind of intertwine. It's not just you saying, okay, I'm just going to focus on just this law. That could be your strength, but in a way, you still have to marry the laws with, some of the other laws, and that's where the law of connection comes in, because we did speak about the law of solid ground. We spoke about the law of influence. All of these things come together. So we have to touch a heart before we can ask for a hand. And like my mentor would always put it as well, that learning to walk slowly in the crowd. Some of us have the opportunity of leading in our respective churches, and you see leaders that just walk, quickly and briskly in the crowd. People are trying to get their attention, talk to them, and they just go. But when you walk slowly in the crowd, then you can connect with people. And of course, a lot of people will tell you that has got its consequences as well. Oh, yes, it does. It makes you more vulnerable. It makes you more open. People could take advantage of that and try to be nasty. And, but when you look at the outcome, the positive outcome of it, I think it's a lot better, because it helps you to actually know the people you're leading. And that's the law of connection. Another part of the sentence here that I'm going to quickly read to you is the first heart that we have to touch is our home. You have to touch your heart, because that's the first thing. Because if you can do it to yourself, if you can improve yourself, if you can help yourself grow using the law of the lead, for example, then you can help others to grow. And of course, we cannot lead others to places we have never been to ourselves. How true that is. You can't lead others to places you've never been. And of course, the last thing I would say here before we move on to the next law is know your giftedness. Know what it is that you are good at. Because when you know what you're good at, then you can adequately and rightly, deliver what you know to people. And of course, that's where the law of intuition comes in as well. Because racket in the hand of Djokovic, in the hands of Rafael Nadal, in the hands of Serena Williams, is going to do wonders. She can intuitively, move with the ball in such a way that a layperson can't do. Intuitive with the strike on the ball. Why? Because she is gifted at doing that. So the question is, what are you gifted at? And that can help you or inform your intuitiveness. Excuse me. And I'm going to move on to the next law, which is the law of the inner circle. A leader's potential is determined by those closest to him. I'm going to say a very quick story that I heard one time of how that you have this leader and he had his inner circle with him. And there was a bit of rumor that was flying around among the followers. And the strength of the inner circle is that before that rumor could destroy the entire, organization, the inner circle could go in and they could either have a gallon of petrol or a bucket full of water and just kill the issue there and there, or inflate the issue and make it go out of proportion. That is the strength of an inner circle. Who are the people that are in your inner circle? It is important that you have the right people there. And how do you know who your inner circles are? Who are the people that are closest to you? Who is in your team? Who in your team makes a difference about what you do? It is very, very important that we understand who they are, and we can, give them a lot more to do, such that it would grow the organization as a whole. Because it is important that, that says that leaders must deliver. And for you to deliver, you need a good team around you, because you can't do it all by yourself. There is no substitute for performance in the life of a leader. But without a good team, a leader cannot deliver. Why? Because you can't do it alone. That is why you need a team. And of course, to get your team, you need the inner circle. And I'm going to move on. So sorry, guys. My throat is a little bit dry. Just have see. And I'll move on to the last law that I'll be talking about in this segment. And that's the law of empowerment. Obviously, if you have an inner team, you have an inner circle, then you can empower them. You can give them power to do things. You can ensure that they set at it. And of course, you back out and allow them to carry on with it, And of course, what this says here is only secure leaders can give power to others. Like Roosevelt said, it said the best executive is the one who has sense enough to pick good men to do what he wants done, and self-restraint enough to keep from meddling with them while they do it. How true that is. Because it's very challenging when you see people say that I've empowered them, but you're still meddling with it. You're still trying to find out what have you done today? And then still trying to mentor them. You don't need to mentor people that you empower. You should have done the mentoring prior to empowering them. Once they've been empowered, let them carry on with it. Let them do it and see how far they're going to come after they might have done it. And with this, I would pass the mic over to Kule, and then we'll move on to the next set of laws.
Tani, that was exquisite. Thank you for that well-delivered piece. Can I just say how excited I am to see all these wonderful leaders just being with us and going with us on all of these laws. Now, you can't estimate well enough how you are growing, because new insight brings about new thinking. New thinking changes our outlook, and then once that changes, then our behaviors also begin to change. So I just want to congratulate everyone for staying through to date. I'm going to go turning into the next 3 laws, which I'm going to talk about very quickly. And the 13th one, which I will speak about, is the law of the picture. This is a law that I've spoken a lot about, especially to my friend Ayo Jato. I was saying to him recently that people do what people see. That is the law of the picture. What this means, simply put, is that people don't do what you tell them to do. They do what they see you do. So the best gift a leader can give to the people that he or she works with is being a good example. You see, there's a saying that a picture is stronger than 1,000 words, because once people say it, I like the way one of my great mentors will say it. It says that only fools doubt what they see. Only fools doubt proofs. That's Bishop Oyedepo. Now, and that's very true, because once people see something, you can't use words to undo it. So practice what you preach. It is incumbent on all of us as leaders in our respective areas to be intent on developing our authenticity, our genuineness, to practice what we preach. Because people actually watch the action, not really the words. And you know what, my friends? When the action is contrary to what we say, people cancel our words in their minds. And I'm sure you do that to people. When somebody does something that is different from what he preaches, you cancel their words in your mind. I know you do that because I do it. So it's incumbent on us to do that. Now, personal leadership always precedes public leadership. So that connotes that we have to work on ourselves first. So, as a leader, work on yourself first, because only then do we stand the chance to actually model the right behaviors, the right values to people. And especially for us, for parents amongst us, or people who are working with younger folks, these guys don't want any dichotomy in our behaviors. They want to actually see us do exactly what we tell them to do. Otherwise, they will cancel every one of our words. Now, I'll put it this way: we have to do a character audit. There is a policeman that we have in our mind. It's called the conscience. Now, conscience can be deadened when by repeated violation of the law of our heart. But when we choose to really obey the policeman in our heart, then our conscience becomes strengthened, and then we can actually correct ourselves without waiting for external correction. External correction can be embarrassing, can be painful, which is why, as leaders, we should never, and we must never get to the point where we think that our charisma is more important than our character. That is the law of the picture. I'm going to go to the next one, and that is the law of buy-in. The law of buy-in says that people buy into the leader, then the vision. Now, the thing is this: people will not go along with you if they cannot really connect with the leader. People stay with the leader principally because of genuineness of character. Now, what we tend to do is that we connect with a leader, and then we then begin to look at what their visions are. People don't follow worthy causes automatically. People don't follow a great vision automatically. They first connect with the leader, but it is the leader's job to shift the attention of the people to the vision, because the vision is actually more important than the leaders or than the leader. Why? The reason is very simple. Vision, every true vision must outlast a leader, which is why the leader must know that as a person, he is very temporary. So the leader must shift the attention of the people to the vision. People come to the leader, then they see the vision, not the other way around. People will buy into you when you buy into people, when you value them. Then they connect with you, then they buy into you, then they believe in what you're doing, then they want to help you do what you're doing. That is the law of buying. The next law is the law of victory, and that says that leaders find a way for the team to win. Before I go on, can I crave your indulgence to just say that we will run slightly over our normal time. That's because we have just a few more to cover. Now, back to the law. Law number 15 is the law of victory, which says that leaders find a way for the team to win. Ever wonder why one of these greatest basketball teams of all time, Chicago Bulls, won several championships year after year? Ever wonder what happened in South Africa when eventually the people overcame apartheid? Ever wonder how people really go against all odds and pull through? The likes of Mahatma Gandhi and other things that we have seen in our recent history. That's because leaders always put the team ahead of themselves. They find a way for the team to win. I can remember Michael Jordan, what he did with the Chicago Bulls. I can, of course, remember Nelson Mandela. I can remember Mahatma Gandhi, as I mentioned. These individuals put the nation or their teams, or even in fact their organizations, ahead of their own personal interest. The leaders as this always say that failure is unacceptable. We just cannot allow failure. And so they do everything ethically right, ethical for the team to win. So I would say this, that it must be a priority to surround ourselves with right team players, and and then to, as a leader, look for ways to make things better for your team, whatever team you are in, to look for ways to make things better. Now, leaders will do everything possible to achieve victory, everything right, because leaders do the right thing. They look at doing the right thing. Now, leaders are also visual figures of inspiration. If you're tired and you see someone leading from the front, um, and pulling through, you would also you would borrow some energy to carry on effectively. And eventually, leaders are dealers in hope. That is the law of victory, which says that leaders find a way for the team to win. Tenny.
Thank you, Colin. That's awesome. Well delivered. I'm going to move on to the next set of laws. I think we've covered a lot of ground already. We are 6 laws away. And the first one I'll be talking about now is the law of the big mo. And what that says is momentum is a leader's best friend. It might be very difficult to get momentum going at the beginning, but the moment you do, you can leverage on that, and it would get you, it will get you to accomplish a whole lot more, than what you had expected. Very quickly, I'm going to run through a few sentences here. It says, momentum is the great exaggerator, makes the leader look better than they are. It says, young leaders often get less credit than they deserve because they have little or no momentum. And how true it is. And that also brings us to the law of process, which Kule did mention earlier. How that I know a lot of us have gone through school or college or university before, and you would agree with me that it wasn't when you actually graduated and when you were under the certificate that you actually, that you were that was the point where you were recognized, but that was not the point where the advancement or your impact actually started. It started from day one when you got into that institution. It's just that they recognized you at the end, i.e. you have built momentum over, if it's a 4-year course, over the 4 years you've built momentum, you've carried on, where some of your colleagues that dropped out, where some of your colleagues that said, okay, I'm tired, I can't go to class anymore, you have carried on. And in your doing consistently doing, your assignments, your exams and things, you are building momentum. And at the end, you got a certificate. And that certificate recognized you as, yes, you've done well. You didn't start doing well at that point. You actually started doing well first day in class. And that's what the big mo is all about. One word that can help you enjoy the fruit of your labor to build momentum without letting it destroy you is gratitude. Because a lot of people could have built a lot of momentum and they forget to actually thank the people and be grateful to the people that have made this happen for them. It says momentum helps followers perform better than they are. The initial work is the toughest results. The initial work is the toughest because your ability to start something going, it takes a lot, even in physics. It takes a lot to get it going, but the moment you get it going, you can easily sustain it all the way. He said momentum is easier to steer than to start, and is a powerful agent for change when you have momentum. That's the law of the big mo. And what it says is momentum is a leader's best friend. I'll move on very quickly to the next law, which is the law of priorities. I'm not going to say a lot about this. Leaders understand that activities really accomplishments, and how true that is. You need to prioritize and know what exactly it is that gives you the most value, and you strictly focus on that. Delegate the rest, because the truth about it is your ability to do that which add the most value to you is your success. Because what use will it be if you focus on the things that add the least value to you and you leave out the things that are more important to you? It will just look like you've wasted time, you've not done anything. But knowingly, you know that you've been doing a lot. But the value is not seen. Why? Because you're focusing on the things that you should have delegated. And you are delegated the things that you should have focused on. So your ability to understand, what am I good at? What am I gifted at? And focus on that is very, very key. And of course, it helps you as a leader when you can prioritize. And that moves me to the next law, which is the law of sacrifice. It is, and the law of sacrifice, they actually go hand in hand. Because a leader must give up to go up. Your ability to give up the things that do not add value to you and focus your attention, your energy, your resources on the things that add value to you is key. It could be sacrifice for you to let go those things that do not add value to you and focus on the things that add value to you. And there's a pyramid here, which I wish I could just share it. I need to share this. Explain the law of sacrifice. I don't know if you can see my screen now, but we've got the number of options at the base of the triangle. And of course, the higher you go, that's your leadership level on the pyramid. So if you're going to be at the top, you're going to have fewer or lesser options to take from. And that is who a leader is. If you're a leader, there are some things that others will get away with that you wouldn't get away with. You're not even supposed to do that. And the reason for that is because you are the leader. I've been in several situations where I'm leading a meeting, I feel physically tired, and I feel, no, I'm not supposed to be in this meeting. But I would say, no, I can't afford not to be there. And that just makes me get up. Even in that tiredness, I drag myself out and go for the meeting. Why? Because it is the law of sacrifice. I have to give up some things for me to grow up. Thank you, Kole. And that's my last on that.
Thank you very much, Tenny. That's beautifully stated. You have to give up to go up. This is a constant challenge to all of us in our respective functions. I'll go quickly to the law of timing. I'm aware we're right on the top of the hour, so I'll crave your indulgence. We should finish very shortly. I'll go to the law of timing, and this says that when to lead is as important as what to do and where to go. Now, I know, like you, like you, I've done many wrong things I've done many right things at the wrong times, and I know sometimes I get my fingers burnt, and that's because timing is so important in the leadership service. Is extremely important. Now, let's look at it very briefly, just to highlight the importance of timing. When a wrong action is done at the wrong time, that is no doubt a disaster, because it really creates a lot of chaos. Now, when the right action is done at the wrong time, it brings resistance. Yeah, people know it's right, but they say no, no, the time is not just right. The action is good, but the time is not good. So they push back and they resist that sort of change. But and then at other times you find that the action is wrong, but the time seems right. That's a mistake. You're saying, okay, if only it did this, it would have been okay. It's the wrong action, but then the time is right. But think about this. When you do the right thing at the right time, then that brings success, because that every piece fall into place. And I like to say that the time is always right to do the right thing. When you do the right thing at the right time, it brings success. Now, when we talk about leadership, it requires being able to clearly understand the situation that we are confronted with. It requires maturity. It requires confidence. It requires being able to make decisions at the right time. The fact is this: when a decision ought to be made and it's delayed, is pushed back, it becomes something that is harder to manage. So decisiveness is really important when it comes to leadership. Then, of course, experience, because you don't want to give the crown to a baby. This experience is so key. Now, intuition also, which we mentioned the other time when we spoke about the law of intuition, it talks about morale, it talks about momentum, it talks about the intangible elements, which obviously is required in leadership. Then preparation. If conditions are not right, it is the leader's responsibility to create the conditions that will be conducive to the change that is needed, because leadership is about change. You cannot lead and stand still. Leadership connotes movement. It means you are leading us somewhere. You cannot lead to nowhere. So as much as leadership requires movement must take place at the right time. Now, I come again to the law of explosive growth. And this says that to add growth, lead followers. To multiply, lead leaders. I think I'm just going to talk right on top of my head. And this is really the fact that when you lead followers, all you can have is just that follower and perhaps the people in that follower's family. But when you lead leaders, you also get all the followers that leader leads. Imagine that I have influence with Bill Gates. Then automatically I have influence indirectly over all of the over 5,000 employees that Bill Gates has. Let's say I have influence with a leader of a nation, a nation of about 80 million people. Then indirectly, my influence cascades over those many other people. So which is why we say that to add growth, lead followers. But to add multiplication, to multiply, lead leaders. Now, there are leaders who attract followers, and most of the time, it's because they prey on weakness. If you are only comfortable with people who are weaker than yourselves, then you are probably a leader that, let me be nice, you only love weakness. You only attract weakness. You only focus on weakness. You want to mass market. You want to do the very least to rub on a lot of people. You want to treat people the same. You want to spend time with people equally. You want to grow by addition. But on the contrary, when you choose to develop leaders, then you are not focusing on weaknesses. You want to be succeeded. You are training people who can choose to go on their own, but they choose to submit their influence, their authority to you. Then you are focusing on the tiny few at the top of the ladder. You are definitely focusing on strength. And of course, you know that you cannot treat every leader the same way. Most of the time, you have to focus on them individually, because these people, don't forget, they have the capacity to also go on their own, but they are people who choose to submit their authority to you. And of course, people who develop leaders, they grow by multiplication. They influence people beyond their reach. So be a leader who develops leader. And I come to the law of legacy, which is that a leader's lasting value is measured by succession. You know, we spoke the other time that leaders who lead leaders want to be succeeded. Can I just say this? Be bigger than the job you do now. Be bigger than the position that you hold now. Work yourself out of the job. Lead to live. And only true leaders do that. You know, remember Jesus will say, it is for a benefit that I go away because if I don't go away, you can't step into my shoes. A true leader wants to move on for people to step into the position that he currently holds. You see, true leaders are always bigger than their positions because they are not working to hold down positions. They are working to build a legacy and to work on succeeding generations. That's cool. Truly, that's what true leaders are. Now, know the legacy that you want to leave. When I say you want to leave, that does not mean the terminal living. I mean, it could be just being in a place, perhaps being in a university, and before you finish in those 4 years or 3 years you're going to spend there, you want to make a positive mark. In simple terms, it's being an agent of change, someone who wants to leave a place better than they met it. So our lives are actually books because we are constantly writing. We are writing what our legacies will be. So we need to be mindful about what we write. The fact is this: we can't choose not to write, because the fact that we have life, then automatically we are writing. We are writing what our legacies will be. So that word comes again. Intentionality. Be intentional about the legacy that you are writing. The fact is this: everything else is temporary. You know, there's some leaders who invest and they put their energies into, buildings, systems, and lifeless objects. Those things are very, very temporary. The only place to put your legacy is in people. Those who build people will always have people to build systems and organizations. So the safest bet on legacy is to build our legacy in people, to leave behind someone more capable than ourselves, whether it's in an organization or eventually terminally in life. And I must say this: if you are a manager of an organization, you must be thinking about leaving. But then you should not leave until you have given that organization your very best, when you have given them what you contain inside. That is the law of legacy, and we'll bring this 21 laws of leadership summary to a close. The thing to say about these laws is that you can pick a law one after the other and walk through them to develop better understanding and to intentionally put that under your belt. The more we put those laws under our belt, the more we raise our leadership lead and the more we become effective in our respective spheres of leadership, whether it's in the public sector, private sector, non-profit organization, whether even charity organizations, churches, or what have you. All of these avenues require leadership. When you look at leadership, Tenny, leadership is actually people business. That's what I'm saying day by day. It's
True. Correct.
people business. It's not about systems. Look, if you build buildings, buildings do collapse. You know, the other time when my mentor, Dr. Miles Monroe, went to, I think it was one of these countries in the Caribbean, Haiti. It was just after there was an earthquake, and all the lovely buildings had collapsed. He said then he sat down and thought that at the end of the day, this thing, success is not really in buildings. You must build your legacy in people. So can I put out a challenge? Can I just ask everyone on this platform to identify someone younger than ourselves, or maybe a colleague who is willing to grow, and intentionally pour the very best of us into them, to pour into them, to pour into them. You know, you know enough to help someone to grow. So I want to really challenge all of us to do this. We are bringing this broadcast into a close, and I want to really thank you for your patience and for bearing with us. We have shot over the hour by 12 minutes, and we don't take that lightly. We know that those 12 minutes can be multiplied by the amount of people on this platform, and you then know how many hours we've overshot by. So we sincerely apologize and thank you for your patience and for your your leadership resilience. I think, Tenny, that's the law of sacrifice, isn't it?
It is, Kule.
It must be.
How true that is. Thank you so much for the time. Yeah, like Kule said, we didn't take it lightly.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Yeah.
I just want to, you can just run through very quickly. Pastor Dari, Pastor Michael, Adeshewa, Buki, my big sister Yetunde, Buki and John, Ayobami Jato, Sister Viola Defeko, King John, Sister Lami, Sister Bola, BJ, that's my sister, Tolulope. Thank you all, and we appreciate you. Tenny, as ever, I appreciate you. You make me improve. You make me better.
You did likewise to me.
Thank you so much.
It's great.
Thank
Thanks a lot, everyone.
It's an honor to be with you here. All right, thank you, everyone, and we wish you a lovely evening, lovely afternoon where you are. Thank you, and keep growing. Raise your lead. Thank you.
Yeah, that's it. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
All right.
Watch out for the next series that we will start. We will be looking to invest in an area of growth. If you have a particular area you would like us to focus on, why don't you either through our Facebook page or through the various chat, maybe WhatsApp, just tell us what area you would like us to also focus on. We want to bring relevant information to you from time to time. Thank you very much, and God bless. Good night, everyone. Good night, Deacon John. Thank you for your greetings.
Good night.
Good night, leaders.
Good night.
Adios.